I've caught this snapper this morning, massive. So it's my personal best snapper, and I thought, why not? I'll show you guys how to fillet fish, because I know filleting fish can be really hard, and I'll show you another way where you can cook the fish and avoid filleting it at all. So I'll show you those two methods, and then I'll show you, I'm going to do up a dish with potatoes and spinach with some crispy snapper. So this fish was caught on the west coast of New Zealand in an area called Pukerua Bay. And I actually got a speeding ticket this morning, so that's how my day started. But it got much better because I ended up with like 3 beautiful fish. You have to be really careful sometimes on some of the pin bones. So like the snapper has very, very sharp fins, so you have to be really careful of those. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to scale the fish. Afterwards we're going to gut, and after that we're going to fillet. We're going to leave the skin on the snapper, and that's why we're going to scale. So if you were going to remove the skin, there's no point in removing the scales. So that's the first thing we're going to do, is going to remove the scales. So you can do this with a knife, and it doesn't really matter what type of knife it is, small knife, large knife, and we're going to remove the scales. Now the scales are going towards the tail, we need to go across the, against the scales. And then what's going to happen is it's going to remove the scales like so with a knife. Now another thing you can do, you see that's just coming off? Because if you've got some oily fish, and definitely, I'm not saying snapper's an oily fish, but if you've got some fish with a nice skin when it's crispy, you definitely have to scale the fish. You have to be really careful for these bones. Now, another thing you can do is I've bought this machine, so this tool here allows me to scale just a lot easier. So again, I'm just going to run that against the scales. It's just going to remove all the scales from the fish. You want to do this when the belly is full of guts, and it just means that it's easier to remove the scales from the fish, especially around the belly. So the first thing, don't gut, but scale. You're going to remove the guts. So we're just going to make an incision, okay, from halfway down the fish to the bottom of the mouth. So cut. Oops. Just going to cut in all the way, and then back. We're just going to remove all of the guts. So we're just going to remove those guts from the fish. We'll take those ones out. And that doesn't look nice. See what the fish has been eating. Some stones, in fact. Just going to remove all those guts. Now this is obviously a very big fish, and most of the time you're going to be doing the fish, it's going to be a lot smaller. So just going to cut that one out. Okay, remove all of that. Okay. And that's a bit of power. So power is native to New Zealand, and in Australia they call it abalone. That is a power shell, so that means that, and you can see there's other shells in there, power shells. So the fish has been eaten. Oh look, and there is power. Okay, so next what we're going to do is we're going to rinse the body cavity of the snapper. Just going to move this one around. Okay, so next thing we're going to do, there's quite a lot of meat, by the way, just over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to make an incision, back of the head. You can feel the bone anyway. So back of the head, we'll make an incision. Yep. And then we're going to go around this fin here. So this fin, we're going to go around, we're just going to remove this. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to draw up those parties. Okay. Okay, so it just opens it right up. What we're going to do is these pieces here are really nice when they're cooked in and roasted. So then what we're going to do is we're going to move the fish around. We'll turn the knife around. So we're going to run the knife all the way along the bone. So it's the knife, sorry, is against the bones. So there's a bone going all the way around down the middle of the fish. We're going to run our knife along that bone to try and move as much fish as possible. So we're just going to run that knife. Down the fish, and we're going to open it up. I'm just going to run that down the bone. Next, when we get to this end, carry on down. Now I'm going to stick the knife in towards the tail, and we're just going to pull off that tail piece. Okay. Next, again, what we're going to do is, so in the middle, so we've got the belly here, the middle of the bone goes up slightly. So once you get to the halfway point, you're going to move the knife over the bone in the middle, halfway down the fish. So just here is where the bone rises a little bit. So instead of cutting across, we're going to go up to that point and then point the knife slightly down. So up to the bone and then slightly down. Okay, now you've got all the bones. You really have to watch out with those bones as well. Now what we're going to do is, the bones around the cavity, the belly, we're just going to cut through those, so it's just going to be cut. And you can even use a bigger knife maybe for doing that. I'm going to swap knives and cut through up to there. I'm just going to cut through. You're seeing it just exposes that belly. Turn the knife around. Then we're just going to go up to the head. Okay. We should then be able to remove that fillet. And that's our first fillet. That's the first fillet. And that's a big old fillet, you know, that will feed probably 10 people. So that's the first fillet. So the next one, we're going to turn the fish around. We get the knife, we do the same thing again. I'm going to cut at an angle around the head because there's a lot of meat here. Then we're going to angle the knife. We're just going to go around. So there's the, so this is the pectoral fin, anal fin. What we're going to do is we're just going to remove or cut up to those fins. And this is the bit that you barbecue or you like roast in the oven. It's really, really nice. Next, what you're going to do is do like we did before, but in reverse. So we're just going to cut at an angle all along the bone, trying to remove as little or leave as little fish on the bone as possible. So we're just going to go all the way down. And this fish, when I caught it, it's just been on ice the whole time, so once we get halfway down, and then just go. Yeah. Once we're up to here, the halfway we go all the way through towards the tail, and then we're going to run that knife against the bone and remove as much as the fish as possible. Okay, next we've got that bone that rises a little bit in the middle. Just going to go over the top of that bone. Yeah, hopefully. I don't know how things will be right now. Okay. Right, next, once we get to the top, swap around with the knives. Okay, and we're just going to cut through those bones. through. Cut through those bones.
Whoa, monkey! Check it out!
This off. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take off the last bits of bone and we're going to give them a nice wash. Okay, so nice cold water. I'm just going to give these fillets a nice wash in cold water. And don't forget, you know, the bones will be a lot softer in a smaller fish. These ones were it's quite a large fish. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is I'm going to remove that last bit. I'll remove the belly, the bones all from the belly. So what we're going to do is, I've just got a fillet knife here. We're going to go, so the belly bones, they're all going to be different sizes. They're going to have different curvatures. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down, okay? We're going to cut under the bones one way. And then we're going to come back the other way to remove them. Okay, so get under there. Yeah, you can remove them a few at a time as well, 2 or 3 at a time. So get underneath the bone, remove the bone. So I get the bones are coming in an angle. I'm just going to go under the bone and then back the other way, remove that bone. Nice. Okay, so all of those bones are removed. This bit here, the wing, is really nice. So I'll remove this one here because we're going to roast that one off. So remove that one. Okay, so there's bones going to be all the way down the middle, and you could remove them with some tweezers, some fish tweezers. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut all the way down, and I'm going to remove the bones just with a knife. So I'll move on to a large chopping knife, and the bones are going to go all the way down to about 2/3 of the way down the fish, so the bones almost end here. So we're going to take a knife, cut one side of those bones. Okay, so this one here now has no bones in it whatsoever. Now we go to this side. And see, this one has the bones, so we're just going to cut the other side of the bones, cut down. We only have to worry about the top 2/3 because the end here doesn't have any bones. I'm just going to remove that. And you can use this one, turn it into soups, into stocks, there's many things you can do with that. Okay, next, I'm going to cut the fish into the desired portion, so cut this one down. And cut the fish into portions. Got a nice large fillet here. So I'm going to cut it down into nice large portions. Okay, and that is portions for one fillet. So we've got, that's probably like a half portion, put this one here. We've got 3, 6, 9 portions from one fillet from one fish. So 18 portions of fish from one fish, 18 portions, crazy. Anywho, next what I'm going to do is I'm going to fry them up. So all we're going to do it nice and simple, it's just going to be a little bit of salt, and I'm going to show you how to pan fry the fish so it's nice and crispy. Okay, so the next thing I want to do, I'm just going to season the fish. So I've got, in the pan here, I've done one batch already, we've got a little bit of vegetable oil and a little bit of sesame oil. So I'm just going to season the fish on both sides. I'm going to pop it into the flour, but I'm just going to put flour on the skin side. So put some flour down, pat off the excess flour, pop it into your pan, take your other piece, flour, pat off the excess. Now, as soon as it goes into the pan, the first thing it does is it wants to curl. You can see it curling? That's the skin shrinking in the pan. So I just push down on that fish or you can just use the fish slice and just apply a bit of pressure. Let me separate those out a bit. And just apply a little bit of pressure for the first 2 minutes. So these are really big, thick fillets of snapper. It's going to take about 5 minutes for fish this size to cook. It's going to cook on 3 minutes on the skin side and 2 minutes on the other side. Okay, so you can actually see the size of the bottom of the fish. You can see the skin is crispy already. So you can always just pull it up and have a look. See how that is? Just going to flip the fish over. So nice and crispy. So it cooks for about 3 minutes on the skin side and 2 minutes on the flesh side. Okay.